there, fiber friends. Since it's been a minute, apart from last week's video, since I've been posting to YouTube, I thought I would do something fun and introductory and get to know me better in the form of 30 questions. And these are from the Down Cellar Studio podcast's Pigskin Party. It's like a knit along that follows the NFL football season in the States. And everybody gets put on teams, and you get touchdowns and field goals for the yardage that you knit. Anyways, that's where these questions came from. They had like a tailgate chatter challenge to answer a question every day at the beginning of that knit along situation. I did not keep up with it, but I had it tucked in the back of my head that I would do a video with the questions. So, with that ramble in mind, let's get into these questions while I go about my day. I am Sarah. I am a 32-year-old knitter, spinner, crafter, dyer, sewer, everythinger who lives about an hour north of Calgary, Alberta on our 4-acre, can you call it a homestead? We have chickens in a garden, so I like to call it a homestead sometimes. I live here with my husband, Kevin, and our 3 boys now. We have twins who are 4, Alex and Tom, and we have a 3-month-old Marshall, or as we call him, Marshmallow. And we have a great big old dog, Willow, and 2 cats. I am a daily maker, or at least as close to daily as I can make it. If you were to come into my home at any given time, you would find an assortment of projects, not just knitting and crochet. I've got some embroidery projects stashed around the house, like pretty much any room of the house that I frequent, you can probably find some sort of making project stashed in a corner somewhere. Usually midway through a row or a pattern or something, and that's for ease of picking it up and throwing in a couple extra stitches amidst my busy life of mothering our boys and taking care of the homestead or the farm or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, a daily maker, and it's noticeable in my mood, I guess, on days when I'm too busy to even pick something up once. So I need to have a little bit of handiwork to keep me sane. And with that in mind, my crafts of choice, primarily I'm knitting. More often than not, I am knitting. I do crochet as well, but the crochet tends to be more project specific and tends to be more home decor or little toys. But yeah, primarily knitting, also crochet. I spin not as much in the last 2 years as I would like to. I find it a little bit harder to get the wheel out, and that's a lot in part because Alex and Dom want to touch anything that moves, and they're still, as 4-year-olds, eternally fascinated with my spinning wheel. Currently, I need to order a new brake band for it because they have destroyed it in their attempts to be like mommy. So, knitting first, crochet probably second right now, spinning. I'm increasing the amount of sewing that I'm doing, which is including a little bit of quilting. I want to get into garment sewing. I mean, if I've seen it and it's crafty, chances are I've done it, want to do it, or plan to do it. Well, is it yarn? Because it's probably in my stash or I'll want my hands on it. I'm really non-discriminatory against the fibers that I bring home. It's primarily wool lately. That doesn't mean that acrylic doesn't come in for specific tasks, or because it caught my eye, or because I was in an emotionally vulnerable place doing groceries at Walmart at 1:45 and went through the yarn section there and found something to bring home. But as far as favorite brand, I don't know. I would say that I fall into a lot of knit picks. A lot of my indie dyed stash is Alberta dyed because I tend to pick it up at markets in a pre-COVID world in Alberta. And then I'd say, and I'm looking across the room at my yarn wall, and I'll show you that here. I'd say that there is a fair bit of, Cascade products probably. I've been a huge fan, and that's what this sweater here is made of Cascade Eco lately. It's sort of a nice, heavy worsted Aran weight situation. The giant skeins go really far. It knits up fast. It's a little bit scratchy, but like this sweater here, I knit several years ago and it's held up fairly well. It's almost like it's felting into something better than its original fabric. Anyways, a ramble on Cascade Eco. So I'm going to answer the next few questions while I block a sweater that I knit and finished and woven the ends a embarrassingly long time ago. I'd say that it's situationally dependent. I'm probably usually an introvert, but in comfortable social situations or amongst people that I consider to be my peers, I can be the extroverted one of the bunch. What else do I do for fun? I mean, right now it's COVID and I have a 3-month-old, so I'd say that the knitting, crocheting, spinning, yarn craft is my fun. In an alternate world, I enjoy traveling, I enjoy yoga, I love gardening during the summertime, and yeah, I mean, stuff with my family, young kids, that's the fun. Well, I'd say that I learned how to knit from my grandmother on my dad's side. She was a prolific knitter, and she taught me the basics. I couldn't even tell you how young I was. But I really sort of honed my skill, if you will, or, where I expanded past simple knit and purl was through YouTube. Quite frankly, I mean, you can pick up a pattern, read it one stitch at a time, and if you see an acronym for a stitch that you're not familiar with, pop it into the search bar on YouTube. There's a video demonstration of how to do it, and you can figure it out that way. And then how do you gain confidence and feel like you've really mastered your craft? Well, trial and error, and there were going to be a lot of kind of failures along the way, or make it work moments along the way, and that's okay. But yeah, my grandma first, and then the internet. As for needles and hooks, primarily knit picks. I've got a couple interchangeable sets of their nickel-plated needles, and I've got, most of my socks are knit on their nickel-plated circular 32-inch sock needles. Yeah, primarily knit picks. I've got other sets. One day I'll show you a video of my full needle collection, but primarily knit picks. Marshall's asleep now, so let's answer some more questions. Favorite podcasts, which I'm going to interpret as YouTubers. I watch a lot of YouTube, like probably too much, but stay-at-home mom life, right? But lately the 3 knitting YouTube podcasters, if you will, that I cannot miss and will watch every week are Fleece and Harmony. They're out on Prince Edward Island here in Canada. Kia's Bod Potter, she does her podcasts in English and Swedish. She's over in Sweden. And Stitching Over the Days. Constance is phenomenal. I cannot believe how fast she knits, and the technical skill level of her knits just blows my mind, makes me want to be her. She's somewhere in the States. And yeah, so those 3. Fleece and Harmony, Kia's Bod Potter, and Stitching Over the Days. Socks, like 99.9% of the time, cuff down. Although I do have a toe-up sock pattern on the old Ravelry with, I think, an interesting short row heel construction. It's kind of a double short rowed heel. That's the double socks pattern. So I mostly knit top down, but I do have a toe-up sock pattern available on Ravelry. Scarves. Not really. I knit one for my brother 3 Christmases ago. Mostly shawls, like really elongated shawl shapes over a scarf. Within the next year, I would love to improve my sewing skills. I think that, moving into a more handmade wardrobe means taking the time to take myself from someone who sews occasionally and usually just for Halloween, where what it looks like from the outside matters more than the quality of the construction, what it looks like on the inside, and the finishing. I want to take myself to someone who can sew a garment or two that I feel confident wearing and not like I'm walking around looking like a DIY. I do a lot of handmade projects for myself and my kids, and some for my husband, although he has been complaining about the slow progress on his sweater for several years now. We're hoping to finish it by Christmas this year. And then I do gift a fair number of handmade gifts for Christmas and new babies and stuff. So yeah, I would say that I do a fair amount of gift knitting, gift crafting. Oh, I was definitely a crafty kid. I was that kid who, in like, cat hit the tripod. This one's Lucy, by the way. Anyways, yeah, I was a crafty kid. I was the kid who I can distinctively recall in like grade 1, grade 2, going to school with glue gun burns on my fingertips because I would get into my mom's glue gun. Definitely pull from the outside. From this cake, I have knit a hat for Marshall and a swatch, pulling from the outside, and the cake is still intact. When you pull from the inside, the whole cake collapses down on itself. You get massive yarn vomit coming out the inside of the cake, and sooner or later you have to take the rest and rewind it, or you just end up with a tangle disaster. So for the life of me, I can't imagine why anyone pulls from the center. I used to. I've since learned my lesson. Hey, video editing Sarah and Marshall here. 30 questions is going to be just too long for one video. My kind of mental goal right now is to try and get one video up a week again, and part of making that a reality is going to be limiting myself to shorter, more achievable videos. And since I'm putting a lot of effort into editing title cards and clips and images and all kinds of extra fun stuff into my videos instead of just uploading an uncut video file, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it quits on this one for this week. Part 2 of 30 questions from the Yarn Lab will be coming at you next week. It's already filmed, just trying to be realistic, balancing mom life, house life, and trying to do videos for YouTube again. So that's all I've got for you, and I'll see you guys next week. Hope you have happy experimenting with fiber in the meantime, because after all, this is the Yarn Lab.